my presentation is called Behind the Music. My name is Stephanie Nguyen. I did my topic on music education. My mentor is Miss Ashley Keogh, and she works at Clear Springs High School as an oboe teacher, so she moves around a lot because you're an oboe teacher, so you have to go around. And this is ISM Spring of 2016, and I'm in multidisciplinary, and my teacher is Miss Christy Click. Okay, so what is ISM? ISM stands for Independent Study Mentorship, and this course provides an opportunity to have an in-depth study of a career at a professional or collegiate level with the guidance of a mentor. So some requirements are that we have to meet with our mentor for a couple hours every week, and we have to do an activity log and a journal log every week, documenting what we did and all our activities with them. And we have to make a final product, and we have to make a website, which we upload all of our assignments onto. So my project topic is music education, and it demonstrates how music works and how other people learn it. And I chose this topic because I've been in band for a while, and you've been my teacher for a while, so I thought it would be really fun. So this is my website. It's swinism.weebly.com, and I just took screenshots of some of the stuff I have on here. So this is my intro homepage, and then I have all my assignments like activity logs, journal entries, and my paper that I had to write. And here's like the mentor poster project. So I have everything on there that we've done this whole entire semester, all on the website. Okay, so what is music? Some definitions that you find online, like everyone listens to music, and everyone, I'm sure, just doesn't really know exactly what it is, and they don't really understand the makings behind it because not everyone's in band or orchestra or something. So dictionary.com said music is an art of sound and time that expresses ideas and emotions in significant forms through rhythm, melody, harmony, and color. And Merriam-Webster said an aesthetically pleasing or harmonious sound or combinations of sounds. And Oxford said that music is a vocal or instrumental sound combined in such a way to produce beauty of form. So these all define music in slightly different forms. Some people say it's like an instrument, some people say it's melodies, and some people, I read articles online and they just say music is like anything. Like it can be found in nature, it can be found really in anything. So it really depends on your interpretation. Some history of music development was that it started really early on. Like if you look at caveman drawings, people are dancing. So some scientists assume that music has started from caveman times just because they were dancing, so they're probably dancing to music. And the first instrument was, they predicted it was a hollow stick you could blow through, and maybe had a couple holes, so kind of like that. So maybe the first recorder. And they also said that rhythms were maybe done by hands or sticks where people just tapped on things, so that was the original percussion. And the first flute was made around 45,000 years ago, and then around 10,000 to 3,000 BC, woodwinds and strings were developed, so it gets more complicated as we go through history. And then around 3,000, the harp and lyre were created. 1,500, the brass and cymbals were created. And signs of the first instruments, such as David's harp, are shown in the Old Testament, so it's also written down in things like the Bible and old books, so we can see like how music has progressed throughout history. And the piano was first developed around 1698, and now music is like everywhere. Like it's on radios, TVs, computers. It's mostly electronic. Like people don't really see live music anymore. So some music eras that I read about, the Dark Ages in Europe started out in 500 AD to 1400 AD, and the Vikings and Huns over in the country. So because of this, the Roman Empire kind of collapsed, and then when they rebuilt, the church took over the Roman Empire, and so the church kind of dictated what people could listen to, what kind of music there was. So most of it was like organal Christian music and, well, yeah, talking about like God and stuff. And then they had holy crusades going through the country, so that established universities and also the art that people saw. So this kind of dictated the whole entire music era during the Dark Ages. And then some famous composers were Guillaume de Machat, and they became famous as composers for many rich people, because that was like a status type thing. And then we move on to the Renaissance, which was 1300 to 1600. And the most common type of music here was instrumental dance music, so not very many words. And example of composers include Michael Priortis, Tilman Susato, and Josquin des Prez. And Prez studied under Joannes, who was a master composer of secular music, which was also popular during this time. And Palestrina composed hundreds of songs for the church. and he had a more restrained style to get rid of like worldly excess and materialism. So there's still hints of the church influencing the music here, but it's a lot less than what it was in the Dark Ages. And people kind of rebounded from this, so there weren't many like words anymore. There was just like instrumental music, just calm and relaxing. And the opera also began developing during the Baroque age. And then the classical period, 1750 to 1820. A lot of people are familiar with this one just because it's like Beethoven, Mozart, and normal orchestra stuff. So even though like a lot of teens don't really know about music, they have heard classical music, and it's just relaxing. This is when Vienna became the capital of music, and they moved away from highly ornamental styles and made their music more clean and uncluttered, which is why we see classical music is very relaxing. People listen to it to calm down, and it's very like just calm. And aristocracies began rising during this time, so they replaced the church's music style with their own style, so it's not as influenced by the church as the other two periods were. Minuet and gavotte were popular examples of serenades that the rich would request. So again, music was kind of like a rich thing, like if you were rich, you could afford more. And then it goes on to the Romantic era, which kind of intertwined with the classical period, but it was basically like the classical era with more emotion. And if you look at the Romantic era in like literature, it's more of like about nature and passionate. Like people want to know how nature works, and just they're really passionate about the world. So ballets and concertos came to light during this time, and the symphonic orchestra expanded. And some popular composers included Mendelssohn, Schumann, Berlioz, Weber, Verdi, and Wagner. And then we move on to the 20th century, which is like the 1900s, and this still continues till today. Basically, we saw a mixture of all artists searching for new ways to explore music. So everyone kind of just came together and did their own thing, and this is really like, you can really see this today because we have like all those different types of music. Like we have pop, hip hop, classical, country, rock. All people listen to different kinds of music, so it just really depends on your preference. So how music affects the brain. It helps enhance brain functions such as reading and literary skills and spatial reasoning, mathematical abilities, and it's been proven that students who listen to music improve like test scores because it just stimulates your brain more, especially if you play an instrument or do something like that. Because playing an instrument, it engages like both sides of the brain, and you're using a lot more of your brain than you normally would doing like other activities. So because of this, it just helps your ability to think in general. And prolonged exposure to music can improve concentration and attention, and I guess that's really true also just because of band, like you have to focus for a long time, and I've gotten better at that. Like I used to not be able to focus for very long, but now I can go a long time like without losing focus. And it makes people happy or sad. So a lot of times, like when you listen to a sad song, you can feel sad. It's supposed to make you feel emotion. Even it can make you feel angry, like if you play like chords or something like that. And various levels of noise can help improve creativity. And different music choices define our personalities. So you can kind of tell, like, you know, like different people listen to different kinds of music. So that can kind of show you who they are and what they like. And this is how our brains process music. So the way people listen to music is really different now. Like rather than listening to it live in a band playing, it's really electronic. It's all digital. Like you can hear it through your phone or you can hear it on the radio. And some instrumental versions of music have pitches that we can't perceive in our human ears, but it still affects the way our brains analyze it. So although we can't hear it, it still actually affects the way we see music, which is pretty interesting. And the Purge group found that humans are more inclined to be interested in periodic sounds. So that's caused by the way people communicate, because you hear like the same things over and over again. So then in music we see the chorus over and over again. So people like this like repetition in music. They know where it's going. And the reason we feel sad or happy when we listen to music is because we have mirror neurons, and it's basically that when you watch someone, you kind of feel like you're doing the same thing. Like you feel like you're going through the motions, not really, but in your head. So you can feel the emotion that the composer feels when they're writing the song or when they're playing the song. So because of this, that's why we have different emotions listening to music. And that's why we like can appreciate it too, because people feel as though they're experiencing this firsthand. And John Cage wrote a book about silence, which stated there's no such thing as silence. Like even when you're like, it's like your house is completely quiet, you start hearing like a little ringing noise in your ear or something. So he basically says like silence doesn't exist. Music is everywhere and it's everything. So that's what I was talking about, how people just see music in different ways. Like some people are like, oh, it's a song. Some people are like, it's everything, just all of nature. How it affects our health. It helps improve focus, improve memory, and attention span, which I kind of touched on earlier. And a lot of people tend to listen to music while they're running or exercising because it motivates them to keep going because they're listening to an upbeat song and they're like, oh, I should keep running to the beat of the song. So this is pretty common. Sometimes it's used to complement anesthesia during surgery because it reduces patient stress. Like they'll listen to classical music, not rock music. That would probably not reduce their stress. Also, heartbeats speed up with lively music and slow down with relaxing music. So classical music can be used to lower high blood pressure sometimes. And people who have strokes, like they had this little experiment in a hospital and they had some people listen to music afterwards and some people didn't. And then they found that people who listened to music were had improved verbal memory and attention span. So they recovered faster by listening to the music rather than just sitting there. And emotional music experiences could possibly lead to hormones that boost the immune system. There's a lot of scientific searches that I read through, and it's basically just they're testing all these things that music could possibly do for people. And yeah, rhythms help improve movement and coordination too. So I read this thing, and it was like they were training athletes to listen to music so they could like run better, like run more in coordination rather than just randomly. So that was part of the whole exercise thing. So this is the reed making process that we had, and you showed me how to do this, but it's really, really long and complicated, and they break really easily, so it's just sometimes it takes forever. But as you know, we start out here with the bamboo, and then you split it in half, and then you cut it, and you showed me how to do this, and then you like break the pieces, like cut the pieces to be in the reed form, and you end up with these, and then you use this to fold them in half, and then you have a whole box of them that go through the process. You let it sit, you tie them, which I've been through with you, and so then you end up with the reed magically. Some of the interviews I did you and the couple of the band directors, and all of you guys said that music is unpredictable and it's always different because you guys are always having to teach out here to the kids. So every day it's like a new problem, something else happens, you never know. And it's always changing based on like their students, and like especially in band every year people graduate, so it's like you have new people, new freshmen, so it's always different. And you guys all said challenging. College was like really challenging because it took up a lot of time for the practice, so that was really common between all three of you guys. The teaching styles were some like kind of different between the interviews. Like I know you said you're pretty much the same with everyone, like you try to make them comfortable and you're lighthearted, but you do move faster with older students just because they have more experience. But I know my band director said that like they have to be more careful with like between the different bands, like they have to be a little bit more strict with the lower bands, and the top band they can be a little bit more calm. So I did a brochure and I basically just interviewed, I did a survey with 10 questions, and some of them were just like age, gender, what kind of music do you listen to you listen to it while you're exercising, just to see how people perceive music. And I developed 4 hypotheses, and I basically said that first, most people will listen to music when they exercise. We'll also say they are motivated to work harder when listening to music. And 2, I said respondents that let their friends influence their music choice will also think they can judge others by their music choice. And 3rd, I said most people will say that songs have different effects on their mood, and most people will prefer a slow song when they're sad. And 4th, I said females are more likely to listen to music than males, just because. So some of the results were I asked, what's your favorite genre of music? And a lot of these were people from my school that answered, so that's why like pop and rap are the most popular, because they're teenagers. And how does music affect your work ethic when doing tasks such as studying and working? And 75% of people said that it makes them motivated to work harder, which is like understandable, because a lot of times when I'm in classes I see people listening to music and there's always people with headphones in the hallway, so I guess that helps them focus. How often do you listen to music? So this is never, an hour, 2 hours, 3, and all the time. So this is like an overwhelming majority when people are listening to music a lot, just because I think in general a lot of teenagers do listen to music more than adults in general, just because they always have headphones in. Adults don't really use headphones as much, so I don't know, my parents think they make you go deaf because they're close to your ears. And when exercising, how often do you listen to music? And 50% of people said all the time. So this shows how when people exercise, they like listening to music because it gives them like a rhythm to run to and motivation to keep going. So this is my brochure, and it just says like the purpose, hypotheses, the questions, and then results. And that's on my website too. It's two-sided, but I just put it all together. And so my product is a song, and I wrote the song Surrender, and it's written into 4 parts. And so first, to do the song, I had to find the tempo, so I just kind of held a metronome to it until I found the right one, and it would click with it. And then I had to find the key, and I thought it was G sharp at first, and then I started doing it, and then I like played chords, and it was completely wrong, and I was like, well, some of them sounded okay, and then I got into the 4th measure, and then it was like wrong, and I was like, this sounds minor, so then I had to change the whole entire thing to D flat. And then I had to find the progression, so I basically just played around with the notes until like I found the right notes, what goes with what, and I had to figure out the rhythms, so like what the rests were in between each note, how long you hold each note, and I'm sure all of it's like, some of it's like a little bit different from the song, just because there's like slight variation, but it sounds like for the most part the same. And then I divided it out into an oboe, 2 piano parts, and a drum set part. And I wrote music. So you've already seen this, but this is just the sheet music for everything. So there's the oboe, 2 piano parts, and the drum set. And it's 4 pages long. And then I recorded a video of everything together. So that was the little music video, just in the song. I did the first verse, the chorus, the bridge, and then just another chorus. So I didn't go through the verse twice since there's no words, so the verse would just be the same. So the purpose of this project was to research music and discover how it affects people. And I was able to gain like a deeper understanding of how music works and the history behind it, which is pretty interesting because we don't really learn about that in bands. So I was like, oh, this is cool, like this is how it came to be. And I wanted to talk about my findings and like show others how I understood it. And it was just really interesting in general getting to research this and finding out about it and how it affects us today, so it's still relevant. And I also made a final product that depicts how I learned about it and how I can use it. So in conclusion, it's been an eye-opening experience for me. It's been a really fun semester. Writing the song was pretty fun and getting to record it. It took a lot of tries just because I had to re-record over and over again to get it to fit in. And like a couple parts were still a little bit shaky, but I was like, because I didn't know how to exactly fix it to make it, because I had to keep recording and I tried like a bunch of different ones, but all of them were still a little bit off, so I got that one was probably the best one. And so it took a long time to do that. The songwriting took about 3 to 4 hours to write the whole entire thing. After I got the first page, that probably took the longest because I had to find like the key and the notes. But then after I got the first page, I got the hang of it. Like I knew, a lot of times in like pop music, songs repeat things. So after I got the first page, I kind of knew around what notes they used and what chords they used. So it was pretty easy after the first page. And then recording, I just had to do it a couple times, like a bunch of times until I finally got ones that sounded alright. So my knowledge about music has expanded a lot, and I've learned more about music than I ever would have known, and I learned how to compose a song, which was pretty cool. I didn't think I'd ever know how to do that. My friend did help me though, because he showed me the software, and he showed me a couple examples that he did, so he kind of like walked me through the steps. And being around professionals allowed me to learn about this career field, so thank you, it's been great.
Welcome.
Are there any questions? Okay, so for more details, go to ism.weebly.com. That's my website that I mentioned earlier, and that's just my contact info. So thank you to my mentor, Miss Ashley. You've been great, and I'd like to thank Miss Click, who's my teacher, my parents, and Mr. Whitmer, who's going to evaluate it, and Miss Ebert, who's just a family friend. Yes. So that's my